Yes, Lisa McLean, Legislative and Policy Manager. This is a petition we received in October from Dave Whistler on behalf of Mask Publishing from Lone Tree, Colorado. He is asking that we remove or relax the requirement for house bank card room licensees to carry an amount of cash on their premises that is equal to the full amount of the largest prize, excluding progressive jackpot, player supported jackpot, and house jackpot prizes. The petitioner has a proprietary game that offers a largest single prize of up to a million, even 5 million in some of his pay tables. And he deems it unreasonable and unnecessary and unsafe for house bank card rooms to keep such large amounts of cash on hand. As a rule, we have that you need to keep the largest single prize that's not progressive jackpot, that's not player supported, that's not house jackpot on hand, in addition to $1,000 for each house bank table on the gaming floor. And we have that rule in place as a player protection issue to ensure that players are able to be paid out that which they win at the time that they win the prize. And we have actually had a couple of instances recently where business entities have not been able to pay out winners. And so from a regulatory perspective, we think that decreasing the minimum cash on hand requirements risk additional instances of card rooms not being able to pay out players. And we are recommending that you deny this petition in writing for that reason. And I know that the petitioner, Dave Whistler, I believe is here. Our subject matter expert, I don't believe is here. He had to go someplace, but our agent in charge for the regulation unit, Jim Nix, is here in the event that you have some questions of me or anybody else.
Thank you. All right, so the petitioner is here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. There's no name attached there, but
Dave Whistler. It has D Whistler.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me see.
Do I have the floor, or is there questions? Or
Yeah, you have the floor.
okay, great. Appreciate it. Yeah, so my name is Dave Whistler. I'm with Mask Publishing. We are a licensed manufacturer in Washington. We specifically license table games and table progressives to tribal casinos and commercial card rooms throughout the state. Our most popular games are Spanish 21 and the Match the Dealer side bets. They've both been around for over 20 years, and currently they're still on over 70 tables throughout the state. And as mentioned, our newest game is called $1 Million Match the Dealer, and it's based on the popular Match the Dealer gameplay, but this game can offer top prizes of upwards of $1 million. It also offers a range of additional prizes in the thousands to tens of thousands of dollars as well. It just depends on the specific rule configuration and pay tables that the casino chooses. And these prizes they're collectively listed under what the game rules call the super bonus pay table prizes. So a quick little history. We initially started this new $1 Million Match the Dealer game in a commercial card room in East Wenatchee last year. It quickly became popular with their players. However, it was flagged that the card room needed to have $1 million in cash in their cage in order to comply with this WAC and to continue to offer the game. The card room determined it could not reasonably and safely meet this requirement, so they unfortunately had to remove the game despite its popularity. Additionally, we were told by Washington State Gambling Commission staff that they had seen some robberies over the last few years, specifically in casino cages. So it makes perfect sense why a casino card room would not want to have this much money in their cage. Now, currently, this WAC, specifically Section 2B, in part requires casinos to keep cash on hand on their premises in the amount of the largest single prize available. However, certain other prize types are excluded from this requirement. At the moment, as mentioned, it was progressive jackpots, player-supported jackpots, and house jackpot prizes. They're all excluded from this requirement, so the casinos do not need to keep cash on hand to cover payouts for those prize types. Now, as for our petition, I want to clarify a little bit. We're not asking for this section to be removed. Rather, we're asking that this section be amended so that the super bonus pay table prizes somehow be included to those lists of exclusions. So the casinos would not need to keep cash on hand to cover the large super bonus prizes, just in the same way that they're already not required to keep cash on hand to cover other large prizes from, say, progressives or house jackpots. Whether it would be best to add the super bonus pay table prizes by name to the list of exclusions, or perhaps just exclude any prizes over a certain threshold amount from the cash on hand requirement, either possibility seems like a good solution. And we feel an amendment to this section 2B of this sort is beneficial for a couple reasons. First, it's just unsafe to keep that much cash on hand because Washington State Gambling Commission staff has noted to us already, they've seen some robberies over the last few years in casino cages. So if a casino were to add $1 million in cash to their cage, that would most likely raise the threat of robbery even more, creating an unsafe environment. Secondly, a casino would not be paying out a winning super bonus prize of, say, $1 million in cash to a person anyways. That would obviously create an unsafe condition for the winning player, among other issues. And Section 3 of this WAC already allows a casino to pay out prizes by check, which is most certainly how a large super bonus prize would need to be paid out anyways. So the cash on hand requirement for the super bonus prizes, or for any large prize amount for that matter, is unnecessary in this regard. Presumably, progressive prizes and the house jackpot prizes are already excluded from this cash on hand requirement for similar reasons. And we understand that many prizes are paid out in chips or at the cage, so we certainly agree with the spirit of Section 2B, and we don't want this section removed. Indeed, we agree casinos must maintain sufficient cash on hand to pay out these types of prizes. However, the larger super bonus prizes do not fall into the same category as these types of prizes. They would not be paid out in chips or in cash. The larger super bonus prizes, they're much more akin to progressive and house jackpot prizes, all very large amounts. So we feel the super bonus prizes need the same exclusions as the progressives and house jackpot prizes already get. So multiple card rooms from East Wenatchee to Auburn, they'd all like to add the $1 million match the dealer game with the full offering of the super bonus prizes, but they feel prevented right now from doing so simply because of this one requirement that they got to keep all the cash on hand. So as we said, there's already an exclusion to this requirement for other prize types that offer significantly high prize amounts. The super bonus prize intend the same purpose, that is offering significantly high prize amounts. So it would seem reasonable that the super bonus prizes share the same exclusion. Again, whether that be by adding the super bonus pay table prizes by name to the list of exclusions, or just generally excluding prizes over a certain threshold amount from the cash on hand requirement. Either seems workable and appropriate, and that's basically all we're asking for with this rule change petition. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? All right, is there any public comments? Not seeing any.
When would be a good time to ask staff questions, Madam Chair?
Oh, Henry, right there. Yeah.
So the staff is recommending that we deny this petition. And the reason why is because it increases the risk that card rooms would not be able to redeem all the chips. That's what it says in my staff report here. That it increases the likelihood that house bank card rooms would not be able to redeem all chips for play or pay out prizes. That's what's given as the reason for denying the petition. Is that right?
Yeah, I would clarify and invite Jim Nix or our deputy director to add in if you'd like to. I think that the petitioner makes a point about the fact that there are these player-supported jackpots, the progressive jackpots, and like those are seeded accounts. They're dealt with differently because of the fact that the players are putting money into those accounts. That account has to go to a bank account. So this is really that a the card room would have to have $1 million. You'd have to stake $1 million that would be in a bank account, which is different than the seated account, which is growing because of the fact that the player is betting and putting more money into it. Gary or Jim, anything to add with regard to that?
Gary, I'm trying to understand why, as the petitioner has suggested, we couldn't simply treat these super bonus prizes the same as we treat progressives and house jackpots, why they couldn't be treated the same with the same rules and create an exclusion just for them. Can you help me understand that?
Yeah, player supported. So as players are sitting at the table playing for that jackpot, they're collecting money from the players so that jackpot money keeps going up. And so that's money that the players have put in that the casinos have based on receiving that from players versus these other jackpots. They have to be, the casino has to have that money. Those aren't player supported. So they're not continually receiving money for that jackpot versus the casino has to, under the rule, has to then have their own money to pay a jackpot. And so that's the difference. And I don't think any casino is really going to try to have $1 million in their bank to pay out a jackpot. Jim, if you have any more comment.
I understand. Thank you. But go ahead. I have another question. I understand what you just said, but my other question is, instead of simply denying, what was wrong with the idea that the Gambling Commission require that the payout be via check? What's wrong with that idea?
I mean, on the surface, I don't think there's anything wrong with a check. I think at the end of the day, it's the amount of money that they have to have. I think that's the question. A check is fine if they wanted, part cash, part chips, part check. We're not going to argue that point. So.
But the reason why we would deny the request is because of the safety issue associated with paying out $1 million. That's what I understand right now.
Yes, ma'am. That's still a safety concern, is somebody walking out of the facility
Right.
with that amount of money. Yes.
So what if that concern was taken away by the Gambling Commission requiring that they walk out with a check? Then what concerns are left on the table for us?
For me, any amount of money walking out the door of that significant amount is still concerning, even if it's in a check.
I'm sorry, I'm going to drill down. Well, what could happen with the check?
Oh, they could still wash a check and I mean, if they wanted to, they could do checks are the old fashioned way of washing checks to change the name on the check and then go cash it. So there's still different avenues, even in a check format, when you start talking, fraud and theft, of the old way of doing checks and business, of washing a check and changing the amount or the name on the check as to the payee.
And one of our subject matter experts, Bill McGregor's got his hand up as well. He's logged in.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
Bill McGregor, did you have something? No? Okay, I see that the petitioner's hand is up again. Dave?
Yeah, I would just like to clarify that the way we view the super bonus prizes is very similar, not so much to a progressive, but like a house jackpot, for example. House jackpots, in my understanding, they don't increment per wager, and they are funded by the casino themselves. So that's exactly how we view the super bonus prizes as well, just like a house jackpot.
Can I ask one last? So one last question, when somebody wins a progressive or a house jackpot, I'm not familiar with how these games are played, but do they walk out of the door with a bunch of money?
There's a separate rule for those that basically says that you get paid out immediately $5,000, and then the rest has to be delivered by check within 24 hours.
Well, again, what would be wrong, what would be dangerous or unsafe about applying that the check has to be delivered within 24 hours to these super bonus prizes? Was that, did staff consider that? I'm not challenging, I'm just trying to understand here. If we were just, for whatever reason, dead set on saying no here, or if there was some way to make this work that took away our safety and criminality concerns.
If I may,
Yes.
this is Bill McGregor with Washington State Gambling Commission, Special Agent Supervisor in Spokane. Sorry, I was unable to unmute a minute ago. I think that your question's valid, Vice Chair. Staff at this time, I mean, there's more rule required in that as far as is the money available versus just saying it has to be paid by check. There would have to be some requirements that it be on deposit and some things like that. Staff would like to visit this rule overall with the other issues that were mentioned in the petition or in the summary that Lisa gave. And would like to visit this rule as an overall thing when staff has time, hopefully in the future. And so we would try and address that issue at that time. But we feel that it would be better to address that all at one time, the entire issue of minimum cash on hand in light of the recent things we've been seeing, rather than trying to piecemeal this one issue at a time.
Okay, and Dave, I see your hand is up again.
Yeah, I would just like to say that from our understanding that Section 4 of this same WAC already requires the casinos to have the sufficient funds, not necessarily on premises, but you have to be able to pay out all prizes, it says. So whether by check, on deposit, or yeah, it just says if you don't, meeting the minimum cage cash amounts does not relieve the licensee of their responsibility to be able to pay out all prizes. So they still have to have the money available to pay out, just not necessarily on premises.
All right, thank you. I see another hand up, but
Jim Nix.
it's Jim.
Jim Nix from AIC for Reg.
Yes, good morning. It's Jim Nix. He's in charge of the regulation unit. And I'd just like to kind of reiterate what Bill McGregor had to say. This is something that we're looking at. It's a topic we're looking at within the regulation unit. Is something that might need updating, but right now it's premature for us to take a position on it other than our stated position in this petition. I do have staff looking at it. We're looking at all the unintended consequences that may develop based on rulemaking. And we just want to make sure when we do this, we do it well and do it properly. So like I said, we are working on it. We're looking at this, but we're just beginning that process.
Thank you, Commissioner Sizemore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel like the staff position is appropriate on this. One thing I kind of think about, I try to imagine, so we do a carve out for this proprietary game, or we call it out. So then, over the next 6 months, we get 5 different other proprietary type games that are similar, that have big old jackpot possibilities. That seems problematic to me. I'm trying to envision being invited to a social card game and having $1 million prize being one of the options that could occur. That doesn't feel very much like a social card game anymore. And when I look at the limits for, or the kind of the requirements for the house to have prizes available for those people that win them, is that creates that kind of limiting factor of, hey, here's how big the jackpots can be. Here's how much somebody can win. And we're going to, use this rule as kind of a self-limiting factor so that it maintains its kind of social pastime, social card game kind of status. So I am supportive of the staff's position.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the commissioners?
Well, Madam Chair, if I could just, again, thanks, Bud. I mean, Commissioner Sizemore, I do appreciate your point of view. The thing is, though, that we already are allowing payouts that are massive in size. They occur right now. They occur with the progressives and with the house jackpots. So if they're not in the spirit of being the size of the game that you think is appropriate, then maybe we should readdress that. But I guess rulemaking is, the point of rulemaking is so that we can get it right. So wouldn't rulemaking be really beneficial to the state of Washington if we were able to develop a policy for a rule that put parameters and around how it is that we would pay out our big prizes? I mean, how would we do that safely? How do we do that in a way that doesn't put people at risk? It sounds like we don't have an overarching policy to address how to do that. And I think through the rulemaking process, we could figure that out. So again, it may be that ultimately in the end, we wouldn't support this request, but it doesn't, again, feel right to me to be denying their request so early before we figure out whether or not there's an elegant solution to determine how it is that we could pay out these big prizes in a way that would satisfy our law enforcement employees so that they would feel comfortable with it. And I think that this rulemaking process is the vehicle by which we can develop that. So again, this is just me. I hate to cut the rulemaking process off so early without at least taking one more jump to see if we could come up with that elegant solution.
Thank you. Any other
Yes,
comments?
I would just, as my final comment is, I would prefer that the petitioner, well, let me go back a little bit. So staff sounds like they recognize that there's some work that could be done in this realm. If we initiate rulemaking, then we put our staff on the clock. Now we're on a clock. I would much rather have a situation where perhaps the petitioner would withdraw their petition and just continue to work with our staff, and we can, in a timely fashion that works for the workload of our staff, be able to have something that addresses the petitioner's concerns as well as our staff's concerns. And, maybe that's 6 months, maybe it's a year. But at that point, I think that we would be in a much better position, and I wouldn't feel so strongly that we need to deny this.
So, Madam Chair, if that were to happen, then I think that would be great. If the petitioner would withdraw their request and if staff could give us a nod, I think I've already heard the nod here, but I see it now, thank you. That we'll continue to work with the petitioner on this and maybe come up with a solution. I think that would be perfect if it turned out that way.
Okay. So Dave, I think you've heard from the commissioners. If you want us to continue to vote, you can do that, or you would like to withdraw.
Yeah, so we can withdraw. We'd be happy to work with you guys to come up with a solution and together rather than going through this process. We can withdraw.
Nice.
All right, that's great. Thank you. Do we need to do anything, Suzanne, as far as?
No, generally in the past, you've accepted a verbal withdrawal of a
Alright.
Jules petition.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Whistler and